Obama said he was going to bring in a new foreign policy, different from the Bush administration, kinder, gentler, more, gentler toward the Muslim extremists, apologizing for America all over the world. Well, did it work? I think the answer is a resounding no. America is under attack in the Muslim world. A mob stormed the US Embassy in Yemen today, and riot police fired tear gas at protesters in Egypt.
Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney says it's the latest result of a weak foreign policy. Meanwhile, new information suggests the deadly attack in Libya was planned by terrorists. Ephraim Graham has more.
Today brings more trouble in the Middle East. Reports say protesters stormed the U.S. Embassy in Yemen overnight. Eyewitnesses say security forces opened fire. And in Egypt, unrest is mounting. Angry protesters filled the streets. Police there fired tear gas and rubber bullets into the crowd to keep them away from the U.S. Embassy. Meanwhile, U.S. officials are learning more about Tuesday's deadly attacks in Libya. A terrorist group with ties to al-Qaeda claims responsibility. Officials say it was a well-coordinated attack, timed to coincide with the 9/11 anniversary. And it happened just one day after al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri called for Libyans to rise up against the Americans.
So one day before this storming of the embassy in Libya, Zawahiri releases a tape calling for vengeance, calling for Libyan jihadists to rise up. That's exactly what happens.
4 Americans were killed in Libya, including the U.S. ambassador, Chris Stevens.
He risked his life to stop a tyrant, then gave his life trying to help build a better Libya.
President Barack Obama spoke with the leaders of both Libya and Egypt following the attacks. The White House says he urged them to work with the U.S. to ensure the safety of its diplomats. Obama also offered his condolences to the friends and families of Chris Stevens and other victims, and promised the killers would be brought to justice.
As Americans, we stand united, all of us, in gratitude for their service. I want to assure you we will bring their killers to justice.
Today, protesters in Libya are filling the streets in support of the U.S., demonstrating against the attack on the U.S. consulate. Meanwhile, the violence in the Middle East is becoming a political issue. Mitt Romney went after the president, saying the White House has not provided leadership in the Mideast. He also attacked a statement from the Cairo embassy that condemned people who, quote, hurt the religious feelings of Muslims.
The administration was wrong to stand by a statement sympathizing with those who had breached our embassy in Egypt, instead of condemning their actions.
President Obama fired back at Mitt Romney for that statement, arguing the press release was released before any of the attacks took place. The Romney camp pointed out the embassy reissued support for the statement after the attacks began.
Governor Romney seems to have a tendency to shoot first, name later. And as president, one of the things I've learned is you can't do that.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Thanks, Ephraim. I believe that the administration policy of apologizing for America around the world is profoundly wrong. America is an exceptional country. It's a great country, and American leaders shouldn't be apologizing. American embassies shouldn't be trying to placate Muslim sensibilities. Perhaps the film was stupid. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But nevertheless, I haven't seen it. But it didn't warrant what the results have come about. The people leading these marches and riots are they're crazed fanatics, and I think that we don't need to be placating them with official announcements. Well, Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN newsroom. Lee.
Pat, Hobby Lobby has become the largest company now to file suit against the federal government's contraception mandate. Hobby Lobby is an arts and crafts retail chain owned by Christians. They oppose the section of Obamacare that forces them to provide abortion-inducing drugs like the morning after pill in their health insurance plan.
These abortion-causing drugs go against our faith, and our family is now being forced to choose between following the laws of the land that we love or maintaining the religious beliefs that have made our business successful and have supported our family and thousands of our employees and their families. We simply cannot abandon our religious beliefs to comply with this mandate.
Hobby Lobby could face fines up to $1.3 million a day if it does not comply with a new federal law. Meanwhile, the Catholic Diocese of Nashville, Tennessee, and 7 other Roman Catholic groups have just filed a similar lawsuit in that state. Pro-gay marriage candidates in Rhode Island lost big in 5 key Democratic primaries this week. The Providence Phoenix reports that only 1 out of the 6 pro-gay marriage candidates claimed victory. They're running for state-level positions, and last-minute funding from Colorado technology magnate Tim Gill failed to make a difference in those races. CBN News has reported on Gill's fundraising efforts on state-level candidates that support gay marriage. About half the members of the Rhode Island State Senate oppose same-sex marriage. Well, it has been a month since a gay activist allegedly walked into the headquarters of the Family Research Council and wounded a building employee. FRC President Tony Perkins talked about that incident and the issues that Perkins believes will play a big role in the upcoming election. Paul Strand reports.
Tony Perkins says despite the general belief the economy is all that matters in this election, social issues like abortion and same-sex marriage will still be important to voters and still matter.
We also believe that if you want to strengthen the economy, you must first strengthen the American family.
And he says crucial swing states this year have tended to be pro-life and pro-traditional marriage in past elections.
Many of the states where pro-life action has been strongest are swing states.
What shocks him, Perkins says, is how vicious the debate has become about these contentious social issues. In one case, it led a gay man to enter the Family Research Council headquarters and begin shooting.
It's time to stop hurling labels of hate and have a legitimate debate about the policies that govern our nation.
Perkins revealed the gunman who wounded one employee before that worker tackled him had the potential to execute a massacre.
The man who shot Leo Johnson carried with him enough ammunition to kill over half the people in our office building that day.
He revealed FRC workers gathered an hour or so after the shooting and prayed for the gunman. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice is talking about her faith and politics with CBN News. David Brody interviewed Rice on this week's Brody File program. She also opened up about being single at the age of 58.
My life is terrific, and I just thank God every day for the life that He's given me, literally in those words. And sure, I'm a nice Southern girl. I assumed I'd get married. I just could never find anybody I actually wanted to live with, and you know that actually is a prerequisite for getting married.
What I've heard.
That's right. So maybe someday I will, but my life feels complete. My life feels fulfilling. I work hard to practice my faith, and I think that God touches us in all kinds of packages. Some of us married, some of us single, but the important thing is to remember that God touches us all.
Fascinating. And by the way, David calls his show Politics Without the Snooze Factor. You can watch the Brody File this Friday on the ABC Family Channel beginning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will keep pressuring the U.S. to get tougher on Iran. Israel and the U.S. fear Iran wants to produce nuclear weapons, but the Obama administration refuses to enforce restrictions that could lead to a U.S.-supported attack on Iranian nuclear facilities. Recent reports say the president could not find time in his schedule to meet with Netanyahu during his upcoming trip to the U.S. Both sides are downplaying reports of a rift, but Netanyahu tells the Jerusalem Post he will not back down from expressing his views on Israel's security, and he will not stop calling for red lines to be set. Pat?
Well, he's right in saying when. You know, you want us to wait till when and for what? And, Bibi Netanyahu is a tough guy. I appreciate him. I got to know him when his brother, Yanni, was killed during that Entebbe raid, and he was a national hero in Israel, and then Bibi came, along with that tremendous acclaim for his brother, and the next thing you know, he became prime minister. And he's tough, and he needs to be tough because they're facing extinction. If your people are facing ultimate extinction at the hands of a terrorist, you have to take action, and he wants to take action, and unfortunately we have a president who's anything but tough. He claims to be tough, but he's not.
Congress is passing a new 6-month spending bill because the current fiscal year ends September 30th, and the measure is needed to avoid a government shutdown. Now, the measure would continue a freeze on federal worker pay, but give federal agencies a 0.6% increase in funding. Republicans are against the spending increases, but they chose to pass the temporary bill so that Congress doesn't have to pass another spending bill in the post-election lame duck session. U.S. lawmakers are investigating reports that Chinese authorities harvested human organs of prisoners for profit. At a hearing on Capitol Hill, Representative Chris Smith alleged that kidneys, livers, lungs, hearts, and corneas were taken from deceased political and religious dissidents. Smith said China's military doctors may be involved and called the harvesting a barbaric practice that must be stopped. Earlier this year, China's health ministry said it plans to abolish the practice of harvesting organs from death row inmates. Well, you can always get the latest news from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.